Thank you so much for joining us.
Sure, I think Charlene should be here shortly.
Perfect.
Yes. Deb, do you prefer Deb or Deborah?
Either one, just not
Okay.
Debbie. Oh my God.
Oh, God.
I outgrew that a long time ago.
That's funny.
Yeah, no, I just got an email addressed to Debbie and it's like, please stop.
Oh.
How many times have we gone through this? But it's okay. It's just a preference thing. So
Okay.
is
No
everybody
worries.
doing well in this weird time?
Everybody's doing well,
Yes.
as to be expected.
Yeah.
I really appreciate you being here.
Oh, you're more than welcome. Thanks for inviting us.
Of course, and telling your story. We're excited.
Yeah, I don't know if you saw yesterday, but we did a car rally down along the Wilmot Prison Complex, which has, I think there are 7,000 people housed on the east and west sides of that piece of road. It's in the southeast part of Tucson. There are 2 federal prisons and several state prisons. And I guess they'd gotten wind that we were going to be there, so they had blocked off all the entrances to the parking lots and things, but we still did our thing. So
Wow. Yeah, we did something very similar to that yesterday with through the ACLU. We did the same thing. We circled the Department of Justice downtown. It was
yeah, the
nice. We had
DOC
about
down there,
80
yeah.
cars.
How many? 80?
About 80.
I think we had about 40, which for Tucson, pretty good turnout.
That's good.
Yeah.
Charlene, hi. How are you?
Great.
Thank you for being here. I really appreciate both of you, and I really appreciate my host,
Thank
Leticia,
you for inviting us.
of course, for putting this all together. So I guess we can get started. So briefly, my name is Ramel Russell, and I've been making lifestyle shows for the past 5 years now. My background is in biology. Then I did fitness for a while, trained NBA players. After I was on Fox TV, I jump rope on TV for an hour straight. They hired me. So that's when my love of media actually came. I pride myself on still practicing what I preach. I'm passionate about the prison industry because I was wrongfully convicted. It's been 2 years. I was in San Quentin. They shipped me around, and my ex-wife was a lawyer. Her firm was doing unethical activities. So I saw a different side of the judicial system. And after it was overturned, I could have lived my life like nothing had happened. So I left California, moved to Texas, and that's when God blessed me to get a bigger platform. And my wife now, my current, not the same one, but my wife of 16 years now was like, you got to tell your story. I'm like, no, I'm not ready. So to make a long story short, I told my story and I got a bigger platform. So if you run a media company based in Singapore, India, Malaysia, we have an office here.
Wow.
So, and I'm just here. So I was talking to Leticia a week ago, two weeks ago. And I was like, you know what? We need to have our own show and talk just about the prison population. Just talk about them to give them a voice, because I feel that they don't have a voice. It's almost like the unforgotten society that they really don't talk about. So we put this together. So it's unofficially called just Prison Talk.
Okay.
And that's basically my
Nice.
story in a nutshell. So if you have any questions, we can always reach back out. So I'm going to pass the mic to my lovely host.
I love this. So after the pandemic is over, we are looking to shoot this professionally in a studio setting. And I think it's really important to talk about these issues to people who usually don't follow criminal justice related issues, so that they can really understand an issue that they've never really approached. And so I met Charlene during my year as Miss Maricopa County and doing my advocacy on criminal justice reform. This is an issue I truly love. I've spent time with the women in Perryville, which was the most fulfilling time of my life. I don't think I will ever give up this issue. I will always be an advocate for people behind bars and people who are impacted. So should we jump straight to it?
We could. Let's jump straight into it. So our first guest that you mentioned is going to be, we're going to start with Charlene first. So Charlene, I read your story and it really touched me. Let me ask a question. So before you had your experience in the system, how did you see the judicial system before this actually happened?
I never paid one bit of attention to it whatsoever. I thought they were probably just doing the very best thing to keep the public safe, and that whoever was in prison deserved to be there because obviously they didn't know how to follow rules.
Okay.
So, no, I was very naive. And so even when my son was first arrested, he had been in some other trouble, but you know, it's like traffic tickets, fighting with the neighbor, you know, other things like that. So things that weren't anything that were like absolutely concerning to us.
Yeah.
But when he did get in trouble, and we were expecting to have maybe a 10-year sentence, but at the end of the trial, and I do believe that part of it was trial penalty, he ended up with a 37.5-year sentence because he took it to trial. So that really, once I woke up from being blacked out after receiving that sentence, began to realize that everybody in prison is not there because they received fair sentencing. Yeah. And so, you know, eventually I started looking into some advocacy groups, mainly because my son was having some issues and wanted me to contact the American Friends Service Committee. And when I did, they wanted me to talk to them, they were getting ready to do what's called Reframing Justice Day. Okay. It was their first day at the Capitol, and, you know, they were going to do Reframing Justice Day at the Capitol. And so from there is when I really began to meet a lot of other advocates, and I really didn't know that there were other people out there. I just thought my son just got a bad deal. He was probably one of a kind. And I had no idea that our prisons are full of people that have extreme sentences. That's right. Or who don't even belong there at all. And so that really lit my fire. I am a mama bear, so. Yeah, of course. I can feel that. There's a lot of other people that I began to meet during visitation time with him, seeing these kids, they still have braces and they haven't gotten over their acne, and you're just like, come on. Why are they in prison? So that really is what lit my fire to become an advocate for sentencing and prison reform.
Perfect. Thank you for sharing that. Our next question is going to come from my host. You're going to ask Deborah the same question.
Yeah, so Deb, I don't know if we've met in person yet. But
I don't think we have, no.
I don't think we have either. I would love to hear about your personal story and why you're in this fight for reform.
Well, I much like Charlene, didn't pay a lot of attention to the criminal justice system. I thought, you know, it was there to keep all of us safe and to do the right thing. I mean, my only touch with it had been on being on juries. And I will tell you now that if I were picked for a jury, I would be entirely different in how I behave on a jury. So that was all I knew about the legal system until I had a call at work one day from a lieutenant in the sheriff's department telling me to come home. Wouldn't tell me what was going on. It was my husband being arrested, and it was a complete and utter shock. He's now serving 5 years in ASPC Kingman, which is a private prison under the state of Arizona. It's the furthest possible prison that he could be away from his family. He's about a 7-hour drive away from us. So, yeah, it's a long drive. He'll be 78 years old in May this year.
I saw that.
He went in with asthma and now has COPD. He doesn't smoke, but everybody there smokes. So now he has COPD, and of course, in any of the 47 other states in the United States that have 50 to 65% time served, he would be home by now. It's Arizona and the 85%, what they call truth in sentencing, that is keeping him inside. And so, you know, that's not what has driven me into the movement. It's just having seen how unfair it is. The only person that wanted him in prison was the prosecutor. Yeah. Not psychiatrist, not the judge, not probation, not pretrial services. It was just the prosecutor. I mean, they're literally numbers, and they're producing income for the state of Arizona. And I really believe if we didn't monetize humans, we wouldn't have we're the fourth most incarcerating state in the country, in the most incarcerating country in the world. So
that's right. That's right.
It's a shocking thing.
Mm, mm. So the purpose of this also is to not only bring awareness to our loved ones who are incarcerated, but to talk about this COVID-19 that's
Mm-hmm.
been this global pandemic, and it's really affected not just us, but it's affected our incarcerated loved ones too. So for Charlene, how do you feel that the pandemic has affected your son, and what precautions are being taken to him to, one, get tested, or two, for protective gear? What do you feel?
For once, I am glad where my son is at, which is crazy because I am a solitary confinement, against solitary confinement, have done a lot of advocacy against solitary confinement. He's been in solitary confinement since 2016. So, and that was another thing I worked with Leticia on, was to write a bill to end solitary confinement. I would have never in my wildest dreams ever imagined there ever being one single solitary reason for solitary confinement to exist. But
until now,
I'm like, of all the crazy things, the people that I tried to get out of that isolated situation, I'm kind of glad now that, you know, they are in solitary confinement. I think he probably has the least amount of chance of contracting COVID-19 because of the situation he's in. However, because I'm an administrator in a Facebook group called Arizona Prison and Sentencing Reform, we see a lot of stuff from other family members who are in all of the other prison complexes in Arizona. So where I feel like my son is probably in one of the safest places, he also receives the least amount of soap, the least amount of attention, the least amount of them trying to do anything. The officers there think it's a joke. They go and cough in their cells. They go and, you know, act like they're coughing on their food. They don't wear any PPE at all. And they're not taking it very serious where he is at, which is the Iman complex, which in Arizona has 3 cases. And at one point in time, I think that was the most. I didn't look today, but so there's 3 confirmed cases of COVID on the Iman complex. So even though they're, you know, in solitary confinement cells, they still, when they're being moved to showers or moved to direct, it's direct contact between them and the officers through the handcuffs. When they're being passed their food through the trays and all of that. So in Iman complex, they're not practicing any of the of the CDC guidelines. That's where he's at. I have other people that I write to emails to. So there's another one that's on the North unit, and it seems to be that they're doing very well there. So there's a couple of other people who I write to. So there's no consistency in this state whatsoever. And that's what really has me angered, is that the director has not made it mandatory. He has made it optional for the staff to wear PPE if they want to or if they don't. And so it just depends on what yard you're on or what complex you're on, if you're wearing it at all. So where my son is at, they don't wear it, but he's in an isolated situation. So it's a little probably better situation than these guys that are 100, 200 packed into a dormitory or in a tent, sharing all the same space. There, though, in the North unit where my friend is at, and he is in a tent, they're offered soap, and he happens to be on the germ crew. So he is it Vertex, I think he says, is what they are given to. He goes around all day long cleaning everything. He said that's his job. Good. And then he used to work off of the yard, but now they have him just going around cleaning stuff. So that's that. And then there's a yard here in Tucson that I write to, a young man, and he says that some days they wear it, some days they don't. They usually have the mask around their neck. They're not offering, they don't offer you cleaning supplies or soap. If you ask for it, they will give it to you, but it doesn't mean they're going to give it to you today.
Wow.
So
Deborah, hearing that, how does that make you feel? Because you know your husband has asthma, and does he have an inhaler? Is he taking medicine now? I mean, how does that make you feel hearing all that?
You know, they have what they call KOPs, medication that they can keep on their person.
Okay.
I think he has an inhaler available. I have to double check with him on that, but the inconsistency is really a significant issue, because in Kingman, where he's at, they are handing out bars of soap every Monday.
Okay.
But the COs, the guards, are, if they have a mask, they typically are wearing them under their chin, which of course doesn't help anything. And they're so confused, they're in controlled movement, and the COs and guards are so confused about how they're supposed to be moving them and when. They have to go for many things through what they call a horseshoe, which is deliberately just 2 people wide, so people cannot congregate or have space.
Okay.
And they go into a U-shaped thing. That's what they call the horseshoe, and they have to go through this to go to chow. They have to go through it to go for meds. So they are literally facing each other shoulder to shoulder, and they're queued up and they're held in there for 15 minutes or so.
Wow.
Breathing on each other, with the guards that aren't wearing the PPE, which is really ridiculous. There's no soap in common areas. There's no soap or water going into the chow hall. I mean, really, the only thing that I can tell that they're doing is the soap each Monday, which is, that's great. And, you know, we have 2 free phone calls a week. That's nice. I think that's true in your son's unit, isn't it, Charlene, that they have 2 free phone calls a week? And then I think 5 envelopes a week now or something to mail home.
Oh, okay.
So a little humanity, but I do wish they would, take the CDC guidelines seriously.
So what I'm hearing is the communication between the families is better by 2 phone calls, and they're giving them more envelopes to correspond to home?
No, you still get the same number of phone calls in a week, but 2 of those phone calls, depending on what your classification is,
are free.
2 of those are free.
Okay.
The envelopes, you can mail as many letters home as you want, I presume.
Okay, good.
Now they're distributing 5 free envelopes, which is really terrific for the indigent guys, because honestly, if you're indigent in there, there are no jobs right now other than cleaning and some porter work.
Yeah.
Everything else has been canceled. So those guys are having a hard time.
So I've also read a lot of debates of whether people should be released who are not considered to be a threat in the community or have committed nonviolent offenses. What are both of your thoughts on this issue?
If we were being humane, I think we would take it to, if you really begin instituting something like earned release credits, like other states have, and get us down to that 50 to 65% time served, so that we can relieve some of the crowding issues. My husband is in one of the dorms that Charlene described, where there are 200 men in there. And a lot of them, because, we've tried to get information in about what the CDC guidelines are, but a lot of them are not paying attention. So, they're still lifting weights together, sweating all over each other.
What?
It's crazy. I think, they're allowing kinds of behavior that really should be stopped for now. They had a GED graduation a couple of weeks ago where they pulled out all the people graduating with GEDs and had them in the visitation room sharing cake. I mean, so far in Kingman, nobody has tested positive, but I think they've only tested something like 15 people out of 3,000.
Wow.
As of yesterday's numbers, the head count was 41,796 in the state prison system. They have so far tested only 133 incarcerated people. And out of that, they have 22 positives with 36 still pending. So that is a tiny, tiny number of tests.
Yeah. We're going to take a small commercial break. When we come back, my co-host, she's going to talk about her role as being a lawyer and what she can do to help advocate for their fellow incarcerated inmates. We'll be right back.
Well, so I'm very lucky to have worked on the policy side of things. Like what Charlene said, working on that Senate bill together was absolutely incredible. Being able to chair a subcommittee at the House, specifically dealing with women's issues and seeing how the prison system uniquely affects women. And I think the dream is to be able to use my legal training and really impact policy so that I can create broad changes, and so I won't have to be practicing under a broken criminal justice system. So that's definitely the dream. But even aside from criminal justice reform, I think it's important to also see how the wider presidential election impacts this issue, which is what I'm also working on now. And I really want to see leadership at all levels in our state and country to be committed to addressing mass incarceration, because that is such a tremendous issue for not only Arizona, but our country. And having studied this issue from a global perspective, Arizona also stands out from having such a higher incarceration rate than some countries in Europe. And also, the US is also directly impacted by this issue. And it's just not normal when you look at it from a global perspective, but that's essentially what I'm up to. And I'm also really curious, Deb and Charlene, what other solutions would you say we could kind of put together to address this issue? I know that certain criminal justice organizations like AFSC have their Amazon shopping, their wish list that people can donate to, and I did donated tampons. I'm so excited.
Awesome.
Or people are doing things like this, but is that sufficient? Or what other things can we do? What can the public do?
Well, I personally feel like the governor has the authority in cases of emergency to release some of these people. And just as Deb was saying, if we did have that earned release credits of 50 to 65, how many people in there already could just go home?
Yeah.
And they want to say, oh, well, they need this program, or they didn't do this schooling or that or whatever. No, you know what? That to me, that's a bunch of garbage too, because my son's completed 38 of those certificates and still has 19 years left to serve. So, and that's with the earned release credits that we currently have at 85%. So all of these programs that they're putting people through and all of this, what are they really doing? They've sent, some of the people that I write to have sent the paperwork to me of what questions they ask them. These programs they're going through are like they're like, I don't know, 15 questions or something. As long as they know how to answer those questions, they pass that particular course. What good is that doing? So why not let some of the people who are already within 6 months or a year of going home, who have served 50% of their time, why not let some of these people go home? The governor has the authority to do that in cases of emergency. And this is how we feel, is this is a case of emergency. There's just too many people packed into too small of an area. And if it starts traveling, we don't even have the beds in Arizona. We don't even have the ICU units to be able to take care of it. If it takes off like it has in other countries and even in the United States. So I feel the governor needs to do more.
Okay. Deborah?
No, I agree. It's my understanding that the DOC has identified at least 6,000 people who are currently incarcerated who are at high risk for the COVID virus. I think that's a place to start, is to take if those people have been are not creating problems inside and meet possibly some time served requirement, why not let them go? And why not let the clemency board meet and actually allow clemency for humans? And then again, the governor has to sign it. My understanding is he's sitting on clemency paperwork for 2 people who are dying inside right now and won't sign their paperwork. So, and it's not as if our clemency board is very liberal or progressive. They don't allow many clemencies to happen. But I think that we need to really start opening up avenues for people to approach getting out. And we really need to seriously look at that 85% served rule, because it's very archaic.
Charlene mentioned something. I was talking to the ACLU or some group, and this was far-fetched out there. If you look at our Humane Society for Animals, it almost mimics a prison, but they treat the animals so much better than they do humans. Like, I'm curious to know, what are the specs for a cell, quote unquote, for an animal? How often do they have to have interaction time? How often do they have to be isolated? Because if you walk by a Humane Society cell, sometimes there's 2, sometimes there's 1, sometimes there's 4 to a cell. They always have playtime with them. Like, what are the specs for them compared to a specs for a human? I'm very curious to see if you put those side by side. And I think if you put those side by side, people will see that they're treating humans far worse. So as a lawyer, I know when they go to cases, they go, oh, Roe versus Wade was this. They always give examples. So I think if they pulled on that coattail, I think something might change. That's just me being far-fetched.
That's a really good point. Like I said, my son's been in solitary confinement since 2016.
Yes.
You know, and it began not as a problem that he was a problem. He was having a problem and went and asked for help. And by them just ignoring it and just before long, he became a problem because he was angry. You know, but I agree. He's been in the 2-man cell. But he's been pretty much in a 1-man cell for quite a long time now. But since he's been in this situation, wow, they treat animals way better than they treat adults.
Yeah, they do.
Way better. I mean, not adults, but inmates. They treat them way better. Animals, that is a good association that you made there. Now you have me curious also what they do, because there's days sometimes that my son doesn't even get to come out of his cell. They're supposed to come out, they're supposed to have 1 hour out a day, but when he was on the Tucson complex, it was only 2 hours out every other day, which still averages, 1 hour out every day. But now that he's where he's at on the Iman complex, that sometimes it's 2 or 3 days before they'll get a shower. Sometimes it's, I think they feed them on a regular basis, but I can't even be sure of that, because we do the best we can to make sure that he has store and commissary as supplements. So
because I've never heard of a Humane Society being overcrowded or overpopulated. Never. Ever.
Right.
Oh, we got too many dogs.
Great point.
And one of the concerns about this, not only just the blatant human rights violations that occur in prisons all the time, it's also the fact that what impact does this have on people psychologically when they come out? Because my argument is this does not make our community safer by treating people horribly. Charlene, you mentioned, your son being angry. You can take a normal person, put them in prison under these conditions, and they would come out as worse human beings.
That's right.
Yes, absolutely.
And so for you, Deb, what challenges do you see when your husband is released in a few years? What challenges would he have to overcome, in your opinion?
Well, he's been having grand mal seizures inside because of the stress. So when he comes out, it's going to be a long time before he can have a driver's license again. So, I mean, the initial challenge is going to be getting him from one place to another where he has to be, whether it's the probation department or check in with God knows what, and coming to understand what the requirements are for him and getting him to those places. That's a tactical thing. I think, strategically, I mean, I can't even imagine for Charlene's son with so many years incarcerated, you're coming out to a new world. Bill is going to be serving just under 5 years. We were talking about it today. This is a guy with 2 degrees from MIT, you know, a double E and a second humanities degree from MIT. And even networks, setting up networks are different than they were when he, you know, I was explaining to him I just converted to a mesh network where,
Oh
you
yeah,
know,
I know what you
before
mean.
he went away, you know, things were much more on a linear kind of a path on that. And, you know, it's just going to be very interesting having the roles reversed in certain areas of our lives, you know, because frankly, setting up the network would not have been my first priority when he was around the house. That would have been, oh, good, go take care of that.
Yeah.
But, and then there's the emotional. I mean, what do you do with 5 lost years?
Right.
You know, as a family, you know, how do we reestablish family relationships, extended family, as well as the core family, you know, with our son and myself. And it's going to be a long path back. And honestly, when I think about Charlene's son's sentence, which is horrible, just terrible, I can't even imagine what it's going to be like for him coming back out. And you know, I do letters to incarcerate people all over the state for AFSC. I respond to the letters that they receive, and some of these long-term sentences, it's just really heartbreaking. The people getting ready to be released after having been inside, if you think about it, since the 80s or 90s, or even the beginning, you know, the aughts.
The whole internet's new for them.
Oh, the whole world is new for them. It has
Yeah.
to be just mind-blowing. And they are released with, what, $220 or something on a plastic card? Yeah, we don't do very much to get them set up.
Yeah.
I definitely agree with that. That was also, I've written about that op-ed in the Arizona Capital Times about women at Perryville too. It's like, how can you expect people to readjust to society and succeed with just a couple $100 or even $50 in their pocket? Yeah, Charlene, I was going to ask, if your son came home today, what did that look like? What would you do with him?
Oh, that's a really good question. And we've talked to, you know, him and I have talked about that. And first thing he's like, I would do everything I could to never go back to prison, to never, ever do anything that would cause me to come back here. It's been a horrible experience. It wasn't corrections. They didn't take him in there and say, oh, you know, you made some bad choices. What can we do to help you? There was no correction about it whatsoever. It's a complete punishment system. That's all it's about, is just punishing them. But I mean, come on, this is going on. He was arrested in 2007, spent 1 year in jail because he took his case to trial. And so this is his 13th year of incarceration, basically. So we have discussed that, and I have thought about that. If he came home today, you know, it would be very difficult. He worked a few jobs before he was arrested. He worked in landscaping. He worked in, you know, he hauled rocks and that kind of thing. So I think he could probably get back into the labor, you know, field. He went to ITT Tech, but he never finished it. There were some issues that had happened, and now ITT Tech isn't even like a real college anymore. So, but he was very smart with computers and that kind of thing. So I think, you know, he would have to rebuild an education. But what I'm finding also is so sad is these other people that have already been released from prison, they have the hardest time trying to get any kind of employment. And a matter of fact, Deb and I are in another advocacy group called Mass Liberation Tucson. And our leader there has been out of prison for 20 years, and he just lost a job because he couldn't pass a fingerprint. Right. What was it, just the fingerprint board? Because he had he had been in prison 20 years ago. And so he had to even ask, you know, for references from Deb and I to to the fingerprint board, to Arizona fingerprint board to give him a reference. And it's ridiculous. He's a recovery specialist. It's RSS. What does that mean? And he's been doing that for a long time, but he happened to switch jobs. And when they ran a background check, he had disclosed it, but I guess they didn't find it. But so, yeah, even with my son, having that in the back, as your background, where are you going to find work? What can you do to even be able to get on your own 2 feet? And through our Facebook groups and just being advocates and seeing other people, it is a struggle. The re-entry is just a nightmare.
So one of the interesting byproducts of all this COVID, I think, is going to be restaurants are very good about hiring returning citizens. But we know what's happened to the restaurant industry right now. So it's a double
That's almost
whammy.
gone.
It's almost gone. And so all those people who are just starting to maybe get back on their feet or really don't have other alternatives where people will give them a chance, they're losing out right now as well. And, gosh, if you've only been out for maybe 6 months or something, you're not going to get a stimulus check, right? You're not going to get a stimulus check if you were inside for 6 months last year. So I guess
Deborah,
actually,
Deborah, what would you do? First thing, husband comes home tomorrow. What do you do? First thing you do. Where do you want to go?
I think we're going to have to go down to probation. I literally think that the minute he hits the ground, there will be a lot of tears and, have family members that will greet him, get him out of the prison blues, and literally get him right straight to probation because the requirements are so strict. And if
what do you think he'll want to do first? I'm sorry to cut you off.
I think he's going to want to order food that he actually gets to order himself.
There you go. That's what I was trying to get this to go to.
Yeah, I think it's going to be as basic as, even probably Taco Bell or McDonald's will look.
There you go. I'm telling you, he will like that because when I came home, my mom asked me that same question that she just asked. She said, "What do you want to do?" I said, "I want to take a shower by myself."
Oh, there you go.
She was like, "What?" I was like, "I want to take a shower alone."
with soap that you like the smell of, and your own shampoo and all that. Yeah, so I guess I'm going to have to think about. It's going to be the little things, I have a feeling. Probably sleeping in a bed you're familiar with.
Yes.
Nice sheets and.
I think the reason why we ask this question is because we know probation, parole. We know that's going to happen. But the simplicity in life, like I want to eat a hamburger, or I want to have a beer or wine. I want to have something to just remind me that I'm human again. Because you gotta think, when you're locked up, they treat you like it's horrible. And God forbid there be a fight. They strip you down, they strip search you, they make you bend over, spread your cheeks, cough, lift up your sack, they call it. I hate to be graphic, but that's what they do to us when we're locked up. So when I got home, it's like, I want to take a shower by myself, I want to eat a meal by myself, I want to enjoy this meal, and I want to just smell. I remember the first time I saw a tree. Like not behind a bar or a mesh screen. And when I looked up in the sky, I was like, wow, the sky looks so beautiful today. So it's those simple things like a hug from a loved one. It's those things that I think we're trying to get you guys to say.
Well, I think he's going to be happy to sleep where it's dark and where there's quiet because he says it's never quiet.
Never.
And the lights are always on and somebody's always poking at you to make sure that you're there,
Yeah.
I have a feeling it's going to be silence and dark and probably French fries and a milkshake.
There you go. Look, I really appreciate you guys being on the show. If you guys have any other questions or concerns, please reach out to us. You have any other questions?
I have one more. So
keep going.
What can the public do? I think going back to this question is I think the ACLU was gathering signatures to write to the county attorney or things like that where there's simple things that people can do to help this issue.
I think Charlene had it right. Contact the governor's office, let him know that being the fourth most incarcerating state in the country is an embarrassment, and that we need to let some of these people go home. We need to, and honestly, we have very important elections coming up in November where the county attorney's office in Maricopa County and Pima County will be decided. And we have the choice between people who support the death penalty and long-term incarceration and think everybody behind bars is a bad human being, and people who are progressive and believe in second chances. We have those distinct options right now. This is a once-in-a-lifetime voting opportunity. We have to change the county attorney's office. Whether we can get people released during COVID-19 or not, I'm not sure. That's up to the governor. That's up to Director Shin with him. But it's really important not to lose sight of the long term, where we can change who those county attorneys are and put fewer people in prison. I think that's really critical.
Yeah.
So they released Michael Cohen, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Did you see that?
I
Yes.
They
did.
released, and he just went in, but they were like, COVID-19, we're gonna let you out.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of, they haven't shown that on the news at all. I just had to read about it. So I'm
Don't
curious
you
to
think
see.
the BOP did that so they're not embarrassed if he dies?
Exactly.
I mean, it has, I mean, I don't really want many. Let's reduce how many people are in prison. I'm essentially an abolitionist on this whole thing. There are other options besides prisons, but that's a whole other discussion. But why
That's
Michael
another show.
Cohen and not a lot of other deserving people?
Exactly.
And I would just add that I feel that the public needs to reach out. Director Shin has only been our director for under a year. And to me, he has implemented nothing that is better. He, in my opinion, has become a bigger monster than Charles Ryan was, because he knew what he was getting into, and he has done nothing to make it better. I mean, for even him to have banned that his staff wear masks and that they can't wear gloves and that kind of thing, it took a lot of media pressure, it took a lot of advocacy pressure, and it finally took the union for the correction officers and a whistleblower to come out in order to force him to allow them to even wear protective equipment. So to me, he's not showing us at all that he is a good director whatsoever. And I'm all for #FireShin.
Yeah.
I'm with you there. And I'm moving toward #RecallDucey.
Yeah.
He's not showing any leadership in any of this.
No, he's not either.
No. Yeah.
Because
So
it's
we
a
need to
shame
keep
that
the
it's a
pressure on
shame
him.
you see states like California, New York, even Texas.
Right.
You see them doing more of they're taking more of a proactive approach to this. Like, whoa, we need to do something. And it's a shame that Arizona is the way it is. So I'm hoping that they see what other states are doing and they can also step up to the plate. But we'll see.
Yeah.
Right.
We'll see. But, we Deb and I both, with American Friends and Reframing Justice Day, one time a year in January, we go talk to legislators. And when I went and spoke to one of the legislators about some of these earned release credit bills that we were advocating for, one of the legislators to me said, well, we like to be 49th at everything. And I think that's so true. Arizona ends up being 49th in education, and we're just like the worst at everything. So it's like, I really wish Arizona would step up to the plate and do something like you said. Texas has done these things, but it seems like our governor is more of a follower than a leader, even though he likes to say he's a leader. He waits till everybody else has done it, and then, okay, I'll follow along.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, ladies, thank you once again for being on the show. I mean, I'll edit all this and put it all together, and you'll see it Monday. You have any other questions? Do you have any other questions for us?
No, thank you so much for this opportunity.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much for the opportunity.
You're welcome. Thank you. And we'll talk to you soon. And that's it. That's a wrap here on our unofficial talk on prison reform. So if you have a story and you want us to feature you on this show, please give me a call, send a direct message, and we'll be sure to get back to you. All right. Thank you so much, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye now.
Bye.